Hey, everybody. Welcome back to 32 All of the Way with Doc, this Canadian Thanksgiving for people like me that are in Canada, and hopefully another nice weekend for everybody else. Today, we are going to be talking to Maxina Storibrook. Welcome to the show, Maxina. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I can't complain. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us today. We've got quite a few books, a little bit of a bio here, and we'll mainly be focusing on your new book, which is called The Calling. So let's start from the top here. Ever since she's been 7 years old and living in the rural Tennessee countryside, Maxina Storibrook has been working toward her dream of becoming an author. Her parents believed in raising her inside of an environment encouraging constant learning and creativity, resulting in exceptional academic performance both inside a classroom and at home. Her father served in the military, and she also grew up traveling the world while being homeschooled. When she obtained her high school diploma at just 16 years old, she already had 23 college credit hours to her name. However, this is only the beginning of her countless accomplishments. So let's do this. Instead of me just reading here and boring everybody to death, would you like to tell us about some of your other academic accomplishments?
With my academic accomplishments, I graduated summa cum laude from University of Georgia, where I am actually currently living in Georgia. And then I graduated valedictorian with a master's degree in creative writing for the entertainment industry down at Full Sail University in Orlando, Florida. And in my master's program, my thesis was literally a feature-length script, and it was actually set in a dystopian world, and it had zombies.
Amazing. Now, will that be turning into something in the future, or something that you don't want to talk about? You're going to keep hidden.
That I do want to work on later on in life. I actually want to turn it into a book, but I'm working on a few other projects currently, and so that's probably going to be coming later in my life.
Fantastic.
Mhm.
So the education, was this instilled at you in an early age, or were you just someone that was picking up a book? Because I know personally from my own experiences, we grew up in a house full of books. My father, both my brothers, my mom, everybody seemed to have 2-3 books going at a time. Was this something that is this unique to you, or was this something that your family really wanted you to embrace?
Are you referring to my writing and my love of books?
Just all of your stuff, how it came to this. Were you always somebody who was reading and writing stuff down as a little kid?
Yes, most definitely. I always had my nose in a book, and I was always at least 3 to 4 grade levels higher when it came to my reading level.
Oh, that's amazing.
By the time I was 9 years old, I was reading on I want to say my mom had me tested, and I was reading about 4 grade levels above, and she
Wow.
was having a very hard time keeping up with me.
I think
But
it's so important because I'm not one of those people who eschews technology and tell people not to do it. But if you can read, if you have that basic skill being down and being able to analyze and edit other people's work, everything else comes after that to me. The reading is just essential for anyone who wants to get ahead.
And not only that, the best way to start working on your own work is to read a lot, because then you not only pick up on what works in a story and what doesn't, but also the little nuances and foreshadowing and how that's actually in play when it comes to your writing.
So were you one of those kids that was rewriting stories? I know I was always rewriting Aquaman for some reason. I was fascinated with Aquaman.
No, actually, I'd be reading a story and then I'd come up with some completely new idea in the exact same genre, and then I'd write about 32 pages and then put it down.
Wow, that's awesome.
that
So
that was me.
can I ask about the homeschooling? Why so much homeschooling? Was this due to you guys moving around, your father's career, or was this a choice that your family made for you?
It was a choice that my family made for me, and then I decided, you know what, I love homeschooling over public school. My mom actually pulled me out of public school when I was in second grade, mainly because the teachers wanted to teach us Spanish more than English.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah.
they kept on giving me the exact same math worksheets for a solid week. And I wasn't doing my homework by the end of the week because I had already done 100 score on the first 3 days of the exact same worksheet. So she ended up just pulling me out of school, homeschooling me through SOS, the
Hmm.
Switched On
Yeah,
Schoolhouse
I'm,
program.
I've worked with their method before. I'm familiar with it.
hmm She started me on that, and since it's its own software and maps out the system, and when you do your coursework and everything else like that, she mostly just left me alone unless I had a question. And I would actually work ahead in my homework just so I'd have a few days off or something else like that, so that we could go hiking or go sightseeing or something else like that. And I ended up just picking it up like that, and I would get done with all of my homework within 4 hours, unlike the typical school system of 8 hours.
Wow, that's amazing. I think it's really great that uh I mean, now people are learning that, but it's obvious there's always been those students that I never considered myself a gifted student, but I like to do the reading and the researching.
Mhm.
But every now and then, well, I'm bored. I don't have anything to do. Man, there's always something else you can do. There's always
Yeah.
something else you can look up. You can read another version of it. It's just I don't want to turn this into a whole education interview because I want to get to your books, but it's fascinating to have all that under your belt. That you don't need to tell me your age, but obviously, very young lady. That's amazing. It really is.
Thank
So
you.
why all the way in Florida? Was it known for this? Because I'm familiar with some of the other schools you mentioned, but not the one down in Florida. Was it known for writing this kind of style of writing? You said your
Um,
thesis was basically a screenplay.
Full Sail University is actually known for being unique in the sense that it caters specifically to the entertainment industry. So, for making films, TV series, games, people go to study there to get degrees to help them get into the entertainment industry and start working in the entertainment industry. And so part of the reason why I wanted to go is because I looked at their creative writing programs because I wanted to be a novelist, but I was also mildly interested in screenwriting as well. And I had entire courses focused around character development, world development, plot creation, um, the flow of writing, and even just overall structure and how to get the characters to interact naturally. Flaws and flaws and virtues of the characters, both good, bad, and side characters.
Now,
And it was very
did
invaluable for me.
do you feel that this now what's the proper way to say this here? Do you feel that this refined your writing or did it change how you were writing?
A little bit of both. A little bit of both, because it refined it in the sense that I was able to take what I learned, and when I applied it to, for example, my DeNarco series used to be in past tense, but I switched it to present tense because after I graduated, I was like, I'm finally feel ready to finish this book. So once I sat down and started writing, I was like, I cannot write this in past tense anymore. It
Hmm.
has to be in present tense because I want the reader to feel like they're there with the characters,
Hmm.
feel like they're traversing the realms with Mara DeNarco, the main character. And well, the feedback that I've gotten so far on it is that my ultimate goal worked.
I, I feel when I see anything written in the past, I mean, obviously it can be done, but whenever you're writing anything from a past event, I find is that somewhere down the line, even in the smallest of details, the author will slip up and put it in the present tense. And maybe it's just being a nitpicker on my part or being kind of a reading geek. It just destroys the entire story for me. I maybe that, like I said, that's a very small point to make, but when it's in the past and it's in the past and they slip and they give you that just little
I
bit of present, I just like
I'm even worse. It's like you'll be reading a book in past tense and you'll run across a phrase, they were running through the street. And I'm like, well, were they running present tense in the
mm,
past, like in the actual occurrence of the book timeline? Were they running right then? Or were they running yesterday? Because it's all in past tense.
yeah, I can totally see your points. I brought this up to other people and they've been like, shut up, just read the book. And I'm like, oh, now this is,
But it
now
pulls me out of the story.
now I'm stuck on this part and it doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
So
I'm right there.
let's move over then and start with The Calling. This is your most recent book. We're going to bring up the names of some of the other ones. And when the video is up, like I said, to be so prolific and have all these things on, I'm going to put as many as I can as far as tags to make sure that everybody can see them. But let's start with your most recent. The remaining humans number in the thousands. The elites watch over all. Emmy works as a librarian in Soltara Temple under the direct care of the elites, giant beings who had descended from the sky and saved their world from complete annihilation. She's been assigned the job during her coming of age ceremony, and now it is time to see if it is hers for good in the calling, a ceremony that the elites perform to determine if someone's current job is right for them. Crom, a childhood friend who's grown distant since they had started working, tries to convince Emmy not to go to her calling. Ignoring him, she attends only to discover the truth behind their decimated world. Now they must work together to survive. So the very first thing that popped out at me here when I was looking at this earlier is that when we are talking about the job, are you set in a society where this is like, boom, this is, you're not changing careers in a couple of years. This is going to be what's going to guide her until this society is no longer of any, the society has no use for her, I guess I should say.
Essentially how that book is it's set in a post-apocalyptic world. And the elites, the giant alien beings who supposedly rescued them, they essentially reset how society works, and they assign careers to people, and they have to work in that career. And there's only like 2 or 3 times in their lives that they can ever switch careers. But they have this little device that tells them what their career will be. And 9 times out of 10, it's pretty good. People usually end up staying in that career for the rest of their lives. And Emmy, as the description says, she's a librarian, and she very much loves that job, and she thinks that she's going to be keeping that job, but not. Obviously, with the way that it's written, that doesn't happen. But I was actually really excited to write this one because it actually came to me as a really, really creepy dream, nightmare kind of thing. I'm not usually good with horror, but this one just spoke to me. And the entire time I'm having, the entire time that I'm writing this thing, I have shivers going down my spine. It's like, ooh, kind of creepy. But once I do finish writing and I let my fiance read it, and he's big on horror and thriller and just those EBGB creepy stuff. He read it and he's like, "Did you really write this, Max? Are you sure you wrote this? Because this is really good. This is my favorite." And I was like, "Well, I'm very happy. Should I publish it?" And he's like, "Yes." It's like, okay.
That's awesome. So horror isn't a big thing to you, it came directly out of this story?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean,
Okay.
there are creepy aspects in my other books, and I do have some kind of heebie-jeebie scenes in those as well, but I've never actually focused on the genre for like the actual genre of a book. My other books are sci-fi, fantasy, adventure based. This one is an actual sci-fi thriller.
Okay. So now that we're talking about this, what I'm always fascinated in, this comes up in pretty well all my interviews, because most of the people are writing some kind of fantasy or they're writing some kind of science fiction. No matter if we want to drop these theories into utopian or dystopian, it always seems to wind up being a dystopian future. I don't think anybody since probably the turn of the 20th century has been very encouraged about what's about to come. And we can go back to Animal Farm 1984, all the way to books like yours, which you're pretty well setting up that this is probably not going to, the answers that are revealed probably aren't going to be a lot of fun for some of these people. Are we looking at this story from a socialist point where, even though like Crom doesn't fit in, is somebody discouraging the friendship between Crom and Emmy? Would you be able to explain that without giving away too much of the book? Like, is everybody seen on the same level?
For the most part, yes, everybody is seen on the same level. The only reason why Crom and Emmy grew distant is because of their jobs. Their jobs were physically distanced from one another. Crom worked in the shed, what's called the shed, which is like a huge warehouse where the elites go to be serviced and to essentially sleep. And that's a kind of like a mystery to the general public as to what goes on in the shed. But Crom ends up being a worker there, while Emmy is in the Soltara temple, which is considered, I guess you could say hierarchy wise, it is considered more of a higher status because she's working directly with the elites inside where they run things. But the only reason why they grew distant is because Crom worked in the shed, saw what was actually happening, and Emmy worked in the temple, saw the front that was being put up. Crom initially tried warning her. She didn't believe him. They grew distant. And also, they just weren't physically near one another anymore either. They moved essentially across the city from one another. So they weren't able to hang out as much anymore either. And so for Crom to just suddenly come out of the blue and go, Emmy, don't go to your calling. It's just sets a tone.
It sounds really fascinating again, because you see that I've always loved this. I don't care what the story is. The example I always give everybody is the Wizard of Oz, and it might sound a little cliched in today's world, but like being a kid, and there's always that part that where it goes from black and white to color.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter how many times I've seen that movie, it's always taken a couple minutes to realize that you're in color. To me, anyway, you're always like, oh, all of a sudden we're in color. So I guess to kind of see the peeling back of what's really going on in society has always been the fascinating part for me. This is a guy who's, more or less seen them, from your description, seen them at their worst, and Emmy, who's seen them at what is supposed to be their highest point. And there must be quite a divergence here that happens between them telling stories.
Yes.
Well, that's amazing. Yeah, no, I hate to give away too much, but it's a super interesting plot line. Now, is there any outside of these two very different jobs? Is there anything more than, and again, you don't have to tell me if you don't want to ruin the story. Is there any more than like a superficial kind of relationship between the humans that are left and these beings? Or is it kind of like a deity thing where they're just, everybody, whatever humans are left are there to help these super beings?
There's kind of like a give and take, you could say. They don't worship the elites, but the elites do pretty much demand, without demanding, respect, because what they're led to believe is that the elites come down while the world is essentially getting annihilated at that time, and stops the annihilation process and saves the few remaining humans. And as far as they know, they're the only ones left in this one city. And so, yes, they do respect, revere, and almost worship the elite, but they're also working alongside the elite. It's a give and take relationship. And so they need the humans in order to help maintenance some of the more fine-tuned, the more minute details of different things, because, well, they're smaller. The smallest elite is about the height of elite is between 2 to 3 stories of a house, and then the largest is like a 5 or 6 story house. So okay. Yeah, they need smaller beings to be able to help them.
That's amazing. Like I said, I really enjoyed the entire concept of it. Your other books that I'm going to put in the I'm going to put all the tags in so everybody can see them. We had 3 or 4 different ones here that I was starting to look at when I was researching your story. Is there anywhere that you would ask anyone to start? Or
Denarco,
are these all the ones that are running in the series? Should they start right at Carney and make their way through?
Carney's the third one in the series.
Oh,
So the
okay. See,
first
this is what
one,
I hate to go on an Amazon rant. They put them in the order of Carney, Kaylin, if I'm saying that right, then Denarco. Is there
Okay.
a certain order that it would make more sense for people to read these in?
the exact opposite of what you just read off.
Okay.
Denarco is the first book. Denarco is the first book in the series, and it's the Denarco saga because it's about Mara Denarco. Echelane is the second book in the series, and Carney is the third. And I am currently working on books 4 and 5, Kudiva and Fonstra.
All right.
And then that will finish off the series. I do know that on my Amazon page, it also says that I have a novelette called My Unsung Hero.
Yes.
That is a Denarco novelette, and I recommend people reading it after they are done reading the very first book in the series, Denarco, because it is a spinoff. It goes off of the world building and the history within the series, but it's focused around a character that's only mentioned within the Denarco book.
That's amazing. Yeah, they just, I don't want to go on an Amazon rant here. They had them totally in the opposite direction and doing the researching and stuff. I thought, I don't know if it sits this way. So when we do, I'd love for everybody to go and examine all of them and buy them. Well, I'll put them in the other order so people can see we should start here and go all the way down. I only have one book for now, so it's not as much of a problem here. Go read the book, and hopefully there'll be more stuff later on. I thank you so much for your time. This has been super interesting. I'm going to put the tags on here so everybody will start going through the series and hopefully arrive at the calling. And whatever else comes up in the future, please, by all means, come on back and let us know. I'm pretty sure that this is not the end of you, seeing this has all been accomplished already. So I'm sure there's much more to come in these series or some other ones you haven't quite developed yet.
Oh yeah, I have a lot planned, including a do you know the genre lit RPG?
Vaguely. I'm learning all these as I'm going along. I had to teach myself what steampunk was and some of the other ones. It's been an interesting ride for me to try and be fairly literal with everybody that comes on to talk to them. Give us your definition.
Lit RPG is a story that's focused around gameplay. So it's literally a story based off of someone inside of some type of game, usually a virtual game. So if you've ever heard of Sword Art Online or Log Horizon, those are in the lit RPG or game lit genres, as it's also called. The lit is for literature, because there are also books. In fact, Sword Art Online is the one that actually inspired my book, Virtuo, which I've actually had in the works for several years now. It's just I've been wanting to finish the Denarco saga before I start really ramping up and delving into other genres.
That's awesome. Again, I thank you so much for your time. We're going to list all these. We're going to put it out there. Everybody, this has been Maxina Storibrook. Please make sure to go out and check her work. And we'll talk to you again soon.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks so much, everybody. 32 all the way with Doc signing off. And happy Canadian Thanksgiving.